So welcome to episode 33 of Driver Suit Blog Radio. Dave Firestone, your host as always. Well, this podcast has been getting off track. I didn't want this to be a whole me ranting about the news podcast. I wanted this to be about suits and memorabilia and other non-news things about NASCAR, but it's gone off the rails. I'm going to get it back on the rails over the next few weeks. And one week we will be going off topic quite a bit, but I promise you it's worth it. Because if I find any more information about this, it's going to be 1,000 times more interesting than what it already is. So today we're going to be discussing some weird NASCAR items in my collection. So we're going to start with a fast food toy. Now, everyone knows Ronald McDonald and the McDonald Land characters and the Happy Meal, because it's an iconic part of Americana, as is McDonald's. Now, in terms of food, I prefer Burger King over McDonald's, but McDonald's is cheaper, so sometimes I'll go there if given the choice. I say this because if you were a kid in the mid to late 1990s, you may or may not remember the Burger King Kids Club. If you weren't alive during that time, or if you were alive and don't remember the Burger King Kids Club, I can't say that I blame you. Because it was one of these things that tried to be like the McDonald Land characters, but it just fell flat. The kids were all sort of generic. They did have it was pretty inclusive in terms of race and gender. I did find it annoying that they named the handicapped kid Wheels, which is not a joke. Go look it up, see if I'm kidding. So, like McDonald's, Burger King did the whole fast food toy thing. And they did have a deal with Turner Networks. I'm not sure who was the full-on owner in 1997, so excuse my ignorance. Because there was a period where there were a number of different entities battling over it, so I'm not 100% sure who was the ownership status, who or what was the ownership status of Turner Networks at the time. What I can tell you was that they had contracts with, I don't know if NASCAR was negotiating their contracts at this point, or if this was still the age of the teams, the tracks would negotiate their contracts, but either or, they were showing NASCAR races on TBS and TNT. And why they don't have a Turner Sports Network, I do not understand, because especially in this day and age, given all the bullshit that's going on at Comcast, they might want to invest in one if things keep going the way they do. Okay, but we're getting off topic. So I was not aware of this, but in 1997, they released with Turner a promotion for Cartoon Network's Wacky Racers. Now, this was, from what I've been able to determine, a reboot of a classic cartoon where a bunch of Hanna-Barbera cartoon characters raced in cars of various designs to win races. And it was one of these things where it lasted like a couple seasons and then it just vanished. Well, in the late 90s, Turner brought them back. And they had a deal with Burger King, and I think they had one in 96 from what I've been able to find, but the one that we're talking about today is from 97, which is important to the story here. So I think there were three like Scooby-Doo style characters, and then there were two NASCAR toys, which were of the pullback, release, and go type cars. I don't know what the term for that is, but one of them was Jeff Gordon, which was, obviously you got to go Jeff Gordon. If you can get the license, you go for it. and Burger King did. I don't know if they were sponsoring. I know at one point they were on Dale Earnhardt's car. I don't know if they were on his car at that point, but Gordon was the more well-recognized driver, so I don't blame them for doing that. The other was the number 87 Chevy of who? I did a little research, and this one stunned me. This one took me down a weird rabbit hole. Apparently, Joe Nemechek's Nemco team was sponsored by Burger King in 1996 for the entirety of the season. The problem is, this came out in 97 after not only the sponsorship had left, but the team more or less faded into obscurity. I think they ran like a few races over the years, but they were really not heard from again afterwards. And it's weird that when you look at the design of the car, it's identical to the one Joe Nemechek had raced in. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why, when you're paying the guy endorsement money, why wouldn't you use him on your official Burger King merchandise? What sense does this make? Why would you wait a year for him to not only leave the team and drive for Sabco, but not be sponsored by Burger King ever again, to the best of my knowledge? Why wouldn't you have him while you're sponsoring him and drum up support for your team? What was the logic there? And I get that Burger King does not do as good of a job at promoting his race teams as McDonald's did back in the day, but come on, put a little effort into this. And the really weird thing is, I could understand it if maybe they had changed the car number, or at the very least the number font, but no, it's identical to the car that Nemechek was driving. I mean, I have not found any evidence whatsoever of any animosity, of any lawsuits, of any. For Joe probably lost money on this with the way it was worked out. I don't get why you wouldn't be upset. Maybe he's just like, maybe they paid him off, or maybe they. I don't think they owned the number 87 because Joe's been racing in that since over the years. But the fact that they designed it and released it when they did, and not make any, like if they had changed it to 97, which was the year this was released, I could be behind that 100%. Now, granted, I think Chad Little was running that number at this point, but it just makes no sense. And I'm sitting here, I'm a 40-year-old man analyzing a Burger King toy from 1997 on a podcast. But yeah, this is the kind of thing you stumble upon when you research this stuff. And believe me, in a few weeks, you have no idea the rabbit hole we're going to go down. So we're going to move on to the second of the two things the second of the three things we're going to talk about. Now, I was late to the ball game on this. I think I was sick the day that this promotion started, and I wasn't really paying attention. So Kevin Harvick and Busch decided to take one of Harvick's fire suits, and I think also a crew fire suit to bolster the numbers, so to speak. Cut it into 500 can-size koozies, have Harvick autograph a bunch of them, and sell them as memorabilia. I came across one of these and I bought it, and the version I have is from the actual driver's suit, which is screen printed, which is kind of interesting because anything that I have with driver's suits is patches and being embroidered. So it does feel like a Nomex, and it feels like it's screen printed, and it does feel like it would protect the driver in a wreck. Now, the thing about me and can koozies is I don't use them. I don't know why I don't use them. I have more than enough of them. I think I've probably thrown quite a few of them away because I have no use for them. But I understand why. I mean, obviously they work. Otherwise, people wouldn't use them. But this is probably the most valuable can koozie I'll ever own. And I mean, given what they're currently selling for on eBay, I can't say that I feel bad for getting in when I did. So yeah, I should really write scripts for these. Like I was feeling off this. I was feeling off on Saturday, so I really didn't get as much work as I wanted to done. So I didn't really write a script for this. But the last thing we're going to get to is something that every racing fan, I can guarantee you, every NASCAR fan has seen these. They just don't realize they've seen them. So I want to say that this was 97, I think this took place. 97 or 98, I can't remember which. But the roof cams were outlawed because it was discovered that the cars that had roof cams apparently had some kind of aerodynamic advantage. I'm not a science-tician, and it's all too complexerized for a boy like me. But NASCAR said, okay, the roof cam is giving the drivers an aerodynamic advantage. Not everyone can have them, so we're banning roof cams. The problem was fans love the roof cam. I don't think there is a fan in existence today that doesn't like the roof cam. And if you are, you don't have a soul. So the fan reaction to this was beyond negative. Like, negative wasn't even close to how pissed off the fans were. So it was brought back with the caveat that every team that didn't have a roof cam would have what has been come to refer to as a camera puck. And this is an example of one. This is from Richard Petty's Air Force One. I don't remember what, I can't tell you what season it's from, but it was definitely one of the Air Force One schemes. When they were running a Dark Knight scheme, one of my favorite Air Force schemes. Now granted, the current one is also awesome too, but I like the Night scheme better. Well, this is an example of one. It's designed to replicate the size and the weight of a roof cam. And there are two bolts where it's to be bolted into where the roof cam is. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't know how roof cams, like how it's decided who gets what. I have a feeling, hold on just one second. I have a feeling that there are sponsorships. I mean, there are sponsorships involved, let's just be honest here, but I don't know if there's like a protocol for how many times a driver can have a roof cam in a year, or how many, if there's a minimum to who gets what and when. I just don't understand the protocol of how it works. Now, that being said, this is very interesting because very few of these end up on the collector's market. And the ones that do, I got one really cheap, and I'm glad to say that I did. But these things, when you look them up on eBay, go for outrageous. I mean, you actually can buy multiple Formula One car pieces for the price of one of these, or even a funny car body piece, which are even more rare, and so rare that I don't have one. I have more F1 body parts than I do NHRA body parts, which is, yeah. So, and this technology has crossed over because now they're not even in puck form anymore. If you look, they're more, I don't know if you could call them teardrop, but it's like a round orb front with like a curved back. But I know that every car has one, whether they have a camera or not. So it's good to see that the best camera view in NASCAR will never go away. It's not going away in IndyCar or Formula One. I do like the new helmet cam in Formula One too. I've been looking for an excuse to talk about it. I like the new in-helmet camera that Formula One drivers wear. If you've not seen it, watch a Formula One race. Formula One is awesome, and the new like tiny like in the camera between it's like in the side of the helmet where it won't obscure the driver's vision, and it's pointing out through the driver's visor. You have to check out this camera. It's so awesome. So yeah, those were 3 kind of weird memorabilia things. If all goes well, I should have an interesting deep dive next week. I'm not 100% sure it'll be ready though, so I'll have something else ready to go. Until then, this has been Driver Suit Blog Radio, episode 33. I am Dave Firestone, and I'll see you all next week.